Now, President Putin has met President Xi at the BRICS summit, calling the Chinese leader a dear friend. Vladimir Putin has been welcoming delegations from more than 30 countries as Russia hosts a summit of emerging economies.
This is BRICS, a group that has shaken up the global balance of power and now claims to speak for nearly half of the world's population. But here's the thing, BRICS isn't a formal organization, it doesn't have a single headquarters, and it doesn't even have a permanent budget. Yet it is one of the most talked about coalitions in international politics. So what exactly is BRICS and how does it work? The story starts in 2001, not with world leaders but with the Wall Street economist. Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs published a research paper where he argued that 4 countries, Brazil, Russia, India and China, were growing so fast that they could one day rival the G7, the group of the world's wealthiest economies. He called them the BRIC countries. That label was supposed to be a financial shorthand, not the name of a new political alliance. But Moscow saw an opportunity. In 2009, Russia invited the 4 countries to meet. Its president wanted a counterweight to the West, a place where rising economies could speak with one voice. The first BRIC summit was held that year. By 2010, South Africa was added to the club and BRIC turned into BRICS. The coalition was built on one shared frustration. Global institutions were dominated by the West. Whether it was the IMF, the World Bank or the UN Security Council, developing nations felt sidelined. BRICS promised to change that. From the beginning, its mission was clear: coordinate economic and diplomatic policies, push for reforms in international organizations, reduce dependence on the US dollar, and over time, build new institutions that could rival Western ones. But BRICS was never designed like NATO or the EU. It's not a treaty-based alliance with rules and penalties. It's a loose, consensus-driven forum. Decisions are made only when every member agrees, which makes unity hard to achieve. For more than a decade, BRICS stayed a 5-member club. That changed in 2023. 6 new invitations went out: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Argentina declined, turning toward the West instead. Saudi Arabia delayed its formal entry, but the others joined. Then came 2024, and the circle widened again. Indonesia joined as a full member, and a new category called partner countries was introduced. This allowed nations like Belarus, Cuba, Nigeria and Thailand to attend BRICS summits without becoming full members. Today, BRICS has 11 core members and a growing list of partners. Together, they represent more than a quarter of the world's economy and almost half of humanity. On paper, that's staggering. 11 countries shaping trade, energy, and even wars from Gaza to Ukraine. But the growth also magnifies internal tensions. Old rivalries like China and India's border dispute still linger. New members bring their own baggage. Saudi Arabia and Iran, for instance, have a long history of hostility. Instead of making the bloc more united, expansion risks making it more divided. Every year, one member takes the chair and hosts the annual summit. Each country gets a turn. That chairmanship sets the agenda for the year. Beyond the summits, there is no permanent structure, no secretariat, no charter, no standing budget, just a set of annual meetings where leaders, ministers, and officials coordinate on issues ranging from trade to technology. Despite its loose structure, BRICS has launched real initiative. 1. Reforming global governance. BRICS wants developing nations to have more say at the UN, the IMF and the World Bank. The group often takes common positions in negotiations, whether it's on the Iran nuclear deal or conflicts in the Middle East. 2. Economic coordination. After the 2008 financial crisis, BRICS countries pushed for closer cooperation on tariffs, investment and resource management. Their combined foreign investment flows quadrupled between 2001 and 2021. 3. De-dollarization. This is one of their boldest goals, reducing reliance on the US dollar. Members encourage trade in local currencies and have floated the idea of a shared BRICS currency or even a cryptocurrency. 4. Alternative finance. 2 institutions stand out: the New Development Bank and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement. They were created to challenge the World Bank and IMF. The new development bank, launched in 2016, is based in Shanghai. Its mission is to fund infrastructure and sustainable projects across the developing world. From clean energy plants to transportation networks, the NDB has already approved over $32 billion across nearly 100 projects. 40% of its funding is targeted at fighting climate change. The contingent reserve arrangement works differently. It's essentially a pool of emergency funds that members can tap into during currency crises. Think of it as a backup plan when foreign reserves run low. But for all the ambition, there are limits. The NDB is tiny compared to the World Bank, 5 times smaller. Critics say its lending standards look too similar to the very institutions it was supposed to replace, and despite bold promises, it has yet to truly transform. One of the most dramatic ideas floated by BRICS is the creation of a common currency. Leaders like Brazil's president have championed the idea, saying it could free developing nations from the grip of the dollar. There are proposals for a BRICS coin, a cryptocurrency, or a basket of national currencies, but experts remain skeptical. To make such a currency work, countries would need a banking union, fiscal unity, and strong economic convergence. None of that exists. The reality is, the US dollar is still used in more than 80% of global trade. A BRICS currency, if it ever emerges, faces huge challenges in being trusted worldwide. For now, most members are simply trading more in their own currencies, with China's renminbi at the center of these efforts. But unity has always been BRICS's weakness. China and India have clashed for decades over their Himalayan border. Their competition for leadership of the global south spills into BRICS debates. Russia's invasion of Ukraine deepened cracks further. Some members stayed neutral, others tilted toward Moscow, but none could form a unified position. The International Criminal Court's warrant for Putin complicated things too. In 2023, South Africa, an ICC member, was obligated to arrest him if he attended the BRICS summit. Putin stayed home. He skipped the 2025 Rio summit as well, appearing only by video. Beyond geopolitics, domestic crises also slow the bloc. Brazil and South Africa have been plagued by corruption, recession, and failing infrastructure. China faces its own economic slowdown. Add to that new rivalries like Saudi Arabia versus Iran or Egypt versus Ethiopia, and the picture gets even messier. So why expand at all? For Russia and China, more members mean more legitimacy against the West. For India and Brazil, expansion risks diluting their influence. That tension defines the current debate inside BRICS. Still, the new members matter. Egypt and Ethiopia bring African voices and strategic geography. Saudi Arabia and the UAE bring oil wealth and financial muscle. Iran adds an openly anti-Western stance. Indonesia adds demographic heft and a Southeast Asian presence. The diversity is powerful, but also dangerous. Can democracies and autocracies, oil giants and importers, rivals and allies truly pull in one direction? That's the unanswered question. Western governments have mostly dismissed BRICS. Washington insists it isn't a serious rival. European analysts, however, warn that ignoring it is a mistake. They argue BRICS has become more attractive because Western institutions have failed to deliver for poorer nations, especially on climate financing. Critics point out that BRICS's anti-dollar push could eventually erode the strength of the US economy. Still, many experts argue the group is too divided and too small institutionally to rival the West-led order. US President Donald Trump was blunt. In 2025, he declared BRICS is dead, threatening 100% of tariffs on members if they moved against the dollar. But the bloc kept meeting, kept expanding, and kept claiming space in global debates. The 2025 summit in Rio de Janeiro shows both the promise and the problems. Brazil, now holding the rotating presidency, wants to emphasize inclusivity, sustainability, and cooperation with the global south. But Russia's Putin and China's Xi skipped the meeting, leaving Brazil to lead without two of its most powerful partners in the room. More than 30 countries had applied to join, from Turkey to Malaysia. membership talks will continue. Expansion seems inevitable. The summit also comes at a tense time. US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, Trump's tariff threats, and intensifying trade wars with China give BRICS an opening to present itself as the voice of those frustrated with Western dominance. But whether it can actually deliver on that promise is another matter. In the end, BRICS works less like a machine and more like a stage where emerging powers can show the world they have an alternative vision, a stage where developing nations feel heard, and a stage where even more unlikely partners, countries that don't trust each other at home, try to stand together abroad. It doesn't have the discipline of NATO. It doesn't have the structure of the EU, but it has numbers, it has resources, and it has ambition. The question now is whether the ambition can turn into something solid, or whether BRICS will remain what it always has been, a symbol of what could be rather than what is.